name is Jana and I have Paul with me today from Fiduciary Wealth, and we will be answering more questions about residency in Gibraltar. Hi Paul, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Jana.
Thank you very much again for having me today.
It's a pleasure.
And answering all these hard questions.
Okay.
Okay, today we have one of the important questions. We will be talking about residency for British citizens. Okay, so from people from the UK, and we have quite a few, and I have a list, so sorry, so I just don't want to forget about all of them. So first we're going to start with one of the questions that quite a lot of people are asking, like what are the differences between the UK and Gibraltar?
Is that in terms of taxation or in terms of cost of living?
No, at this moment it's just, is Gibraltar something like similar to UK, like any other town? So for example, if you want to move somewhere in the UK in different towns, we obviously know it's UK, it's the same. But what about Gibraltar? Is Gibraltar, because Gibraltar is overseas British territory,
Correct.
But is it like other town?
It is and it isn't, because it has the Anglo-Saxon British influence, but equally we are Mediterranean people predominantly. So we are influenced by the Mediterranean culture and the immigrants that we've had over many centuries. So you know the Maltese and the Italian, the Portuguese, the Spanish, Sephardic Jews, and they've all influenced our culture.
Right.
So it has a British flavour, but equally it has Mediterranean feel to it too.
Right.
We can't escape the fact that we are Mediterranean people, still attached to mainland Europe.
Right.
So it has a bit of both, but you still see the British bobbies walking around, the double-decker red buses, and then our system is British-based in terms of law,
Yes, so
and order, education.
So that's basically like in the UK.
It is very similar to the UK
Right.
in a lot of respects,
Right.
but then with some nuances and differences to factor in, you know, the fact that we are, I don't know how many miles away from the UK, and we have our own distinct culture and way of living. Yeah.
Right. So basically, Gibraltar is very similar to UK. Like it's the same, like laws and.
Yes,
UK,
I mean,
Gibraltar has its own parliament and
Yes.
prime minister, so that's different. So like you don't have it in the
No.
other towns in the UK, but it's
Correct.
like the system is similar.
It's a self-governing territory.
Yes.
So completely self-governing, except there's some, and the responsibilities are defined in the constitution.
Right.
In terms of, you know, who's responsible for what, you know. For Gibraltar matters is the Gibraltar government. There will be, you know, foreign affairs and a few other things where the British government assumes overall responsibility. But no, it's a self-governing, almost completely independent territory from the UK with its own taxation system. But yes, if you look at our education system, it's exactly the same.
Right.
If you look at our laws, they are based on Gibraltar statute law as opposed to UK statute, because we write our own laws. Some of it is shaped and modelled by UK statute, sometimes it's not.
Right.
And then it's also, we follow UK case law as well. But the judicial and legal system is modelled on the UK. The education system is identical up to A levels, and then depending on the grades you have, Gibraltar government sponsors students to go to British universities, depending on the individual and the grades that they achieve. And then we have a Gibraltar Health Authority, which is broadly similar to the National Health Service in the UK.
Right.
So yeah, I think the similarities are common language,
Yep.
still a common currency, the pound reigns supreme. So no, generally I think a British national wanting to relocate to Gibraltar will find it that it's a seamless transition to Gibraltar, but of course, you know, there could be, I will speak English fluently, but but we have our own dialect and language which we interchange, as you probably know, having been here a long time.
Spanish.
Spanglish, yeah, exactly. Spanglish.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering for this question. So the next question: if UK citizen, British national, would love to come and live in Gibraltar, so what types of residency available for the UK citizens here?
Yes. I mean, they are, because I think...
That's simple to just move in Gibraltar.
Well, I think we covered it in
Previous video, yes.
in the previous video. I think Gibraltar residency is not based on immigration laws. It's based on, you know, the financial means of the individual and the specifics of the case. Having said that, again covered in video 1, British nationals have the opportunity to qualify on self-sufficiency grounds if they are of retirement age in the UK and they transfer their medical rights to Gibraltar, from the NHS to the GHA.
Right.
So that is the only instance where a British national has another route to residency blocked to any other foreign national.
Right.
Yeah?
So
They can transfer
exactly
them.
the same as what we talked about in the previous video, all the
Correct.
same types, but the only difference is with retirement.
Correct.
If you have pension, it's a bit different.
If you have your medical rights, you've contributed throughout your working life and you're entitled to free national health service, you can transfer those rights to the Gibraltar Health Authority,
Okay.
and that ticks the box for self-sufficiency.
Right.
So exactly the same as any other national, save for that instance where a retired British national could potentially transfer the medical rights and, assuming they tick all the other boxes, could establish residency, which all other foreign nationals cannot. So it's just one little additional route to market to residency.
Okay. All right. So the next question is
Yeah.
tricky one. Can British people just move in and live in Gibraltar without applying for residency permit?
Well, you know what? I love that question because I've been thinking in my mind how to give you a straight answer.
Right.
I think it is no different. So, I mean, I'm going to talk in vague terms and then we'll talk about the specifics.
No.
I think it's the same as if you wanted to buy a property in Spain.
Okay.
You can buy a property in Spain as a foreign national. No one's going to stop you as a non-resident.
Yes.
And we have, excuse me, we have to distinguish between a non-resident and a resident. In theory, I don't see why there should be any impediment to a foreign national buying a property, a second home here, and enjoying the benefits of having a second home in Gibraltar. Quite another thing is establishing a tax residency. So what you cannot do, for instance, let's take Spain as an example. You become a non-resident, you buy a property in Spain, a summer home, and you go there and you spend X number of days. You're still limited, if you're British national, you're limited by the Brexit rules. So only 90 days every 180.
Yes.
And no more than 183 days a year to avoid triggering residency. So you can still buy the home as a non-resident and enjoy, subject to the rules. Gibraltar is no different. You can buy the property, you can come here and enjoy yourself.
Right.
But I would imagine if you spend more than 183 days, then you're a Gibraltar resident. What you cannot do is you buy a property here, you move here,
Right.
you either exit the UK and you're a tax nomad because you don't register for taxation here, or you remain UK tax resident
Yes, for example, you remain.
but actually live here.
Yes. Can
I
you
mean,
do something like this?
Not really, because then you're in breach of the rules or of the residency rules in the country.
No.
In much the same way, and I give the example of Spain, you can buy a home as a second home, but you're subject to not spending more than 183
So there
days.
is the same rule applies here.
No, not the same rules. What
No.
I'm saying is, it's in like any other country. You can go back to UK and buy a property there. It could be a second home as a non-resident.
Right.
Or you can buy a property and become a tax resident as well.
What if you don't? If you just move to Gibraltar, rent something, and
You-
just live as a UK citizen?
No,
like you just move in here, rent
No,
something, just
that-
live here and...
Then what you're doing is you're operating under the radar.
Right.
that you cannot do.
So, for example, you have some savings and you don't want to.
Yes.
You just don't want to
You
register
cannot do
anywhere.
it. You cannot do
You
it.
can't do it.
No, because if you, let's say you have some savings and you want to live in Spain and you just buy a property and just stay below the radar, it's the same thing.
Right.
Or you go to France and you've got some savings and you buy a property in France and I want to stay under the radar. But,
So you have to apply for residency at some point.
Of
You
course.
have to.
no, you have to apply for residency if the intention is to remain.
Yes.
If the intention is to have a second home and you're not going to spend more than 183 days and you're tax resident somewhere else, fine. And remember one other thing which is worth mentioning for the listeners.
Right.
If you come to Gibraltar and spend more than 183 days a year, but that doesn't give you, shield you from triggering tax residency in a third country. You might go back to UK and spend more time than you're allowed. So the UK tax authorities could argue that you're a tax resident.
Yes.
Or you can come to Gibraltar and buy a second home in Spain and spend more than 183 days. And if the Spanish authorities challenge you, you come up with a Gibraltar certificate and say, no, I'm sorry, I'm a tax resident here.
Oh.
And the Spanish tax authorities would say, no, sorry, you're tax resident here.
Yeah.
You're spending more than 183 days. So, you have to be mindful of those things. So the short answer is, you can come here, you can buy a second home as a non-resident, be tax resident somewhere else, don't spend too much time here. But if the intention is to stay here permanently, then you have to pay your tax here, like in any other country, and you have to do it properly. And I think the tax authorities here are really clamping down on that. Yeah?
Right. Okay. So basically, if you come and you want to stay in Gibraltar, you have to apply for residency at some point. You still have
Absolutely,
to
like
do it.
any other place.
Yes. So this is not much different.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Now we were talking about actually taxes. As a British living in Gibraltar but earning in the UK, like remote job, for example, right, or have like business still out there, but want to live here, where would they pay tax? So
they would pay tax
over there or here? Was it
Here.
double taxation or?
No, they would pay tax here because they're tax resident here.
Right.
What they would have to do is, in all probability, they could do one of two things. They could register as a sole trader, and then if they have a UK company, be a contractor to your UK company and provide services to the UK company, and register as a sole trader here and pay personal tax.
Right.
If the amounts are more significant, it's more tax advantageous, you could set up a Gibraltar company, and the Gibraltar company then invoices your UK company for services rendered.
Right.
Again, the specifics depends on the case,
Yes. So.
and each case is different, so we can't say one size fits all, but there's different ways of structuring it
Right. Okay.
to achieve that goal.
Okay. So. Right. Thank you. I have the question is for the pension specifically, that scheme.
Yes.
Which you already gave a little bit answer, but maybe you just give a little bit details, like what the rules and process for the pensioners to move in here. So you become UK pensioner.
You still have to be on self-sufficiency.
So it's self-sufficiency for
It's
pensioners.
self-sufficiency, but you know, under self-sufficiency now, as we mentioned in video one, you have to be a qualified person.
Right.
So essentially, you have to be in receipt of earned income and declare it here and pay tax here.
Right.
Which is really either an employee of a local company, or you become self-employed and declare your income here. The only exception to that is that a UK retiree
Yes.
who's accumulated medical rights in the UK can transfer those to the Gibraltar Health Authority,
Right.
and then that gives them a route to residency. But then we would have to look at their financial affairs to see what else is taxable or not taxable. And this is where we can add considerable value.
Right.
We can come in and restructure their financial affairs, because it's not just a question of transferring your medical rights.
Okay.
How do we limit the taxation once you moved?
All right. Okay. But basically, if you retired and you have your pension in the UK and you use social healthcare there, like
Yes.
NHS, so you can it's easier.
Yeah,
so you can actually come
easy.
here
It is easy.
and it's easier, so you can do
If you have
something.
retirement age,
So you don't want to work anymore, you don't want to do anything, so you retire your pension
Yes.
and NHS, so you can move it all in here. as well.
exactly,
And you can help with this.
definitely,
Yes, to organize it all, so it's
Yes.
easy, it's smooth and easy.
exactly.
So that's one of the benefits to be UK citizen.
Yes.
When you retire, you can actually come and live in Gibraltar and enjoy sun pretty much all year round. It's not only in summer. I know the UK becomes really hot in summer too, but
Sure.
in Gibraltar it's pretty much winters are very nice and sunny.
It is the temperate, mild winters,
Yes.
because you're right. The summer, and we're in summer now,
Yes.
it's not nice anymore, right? 31 degrees. You
Really.
don't want that. Stay in the UK. They go back for the summer. But the rest of the year, when it's cold in the UK, it's lovely here, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, 18, 19 degrees. I think last Christmas, I remember for the first time ever, in Christmas Day, having lunch outside,
Yes.
and I think the temperature was 21.
Yes, this winter was very, very warm.
It was very
And
warm.
last year, the Christmas time was very hot in here, I would say. Well, for my husband it was hot.
Yeah.
For me it was okay, because I still like when it's a bit hotter. So, yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have, for example, British national has a family in the UK. So we know that if you live in the UK, you have wife, your children there, you're domiciled there, right? In the UK, so you pay taxes there.
Well, I think we have to distinguish between domicile and
Right.
residency.
It's different, is it?
It's a different concept.
Okay, because I
So,
know...
so UK is quite different to a lot of other jurisdictions.
Right,
In that one thing is tax residency, your domicile is something that you've acquired at birth,
right,
and it's difficult to shed.
okay,
You can have a domicile of choice, but I think that would be for another video. It gets
right.
more complicated.
Right. No, the question is just what I just know because
Yeah.
this, when we left UK, that was like when you live in, for example, a husband decided to move to Gibraltar for tax
Yeah.
purposes,
Yeah.
right? And he wants to live here, like buy property, become resident here, but he still has his wife and children staying in UK. I know that sometimes in these circumstances, the UK still might say because like the main activity is in the UK.
Well,
And if you just move, do you still have to pay tax?
no, I think the issue is that the UK Statutory Residency Test 2013 kicks in, and that determines if you're a non-resident how many days you can trip back. And having a wife and a family back in the UK is one tie. Having a home in the UK is another tie. And the more ties you have, the less days you can spend in the UK. Otherwise, you become tax resident in Gibraltar.
Yes.
Your wife is in the UK with your children and you've got your main home there. Then, if you spend more time than you're allowed, notwithstanding the fact that you've got that lovely Gibraltar residence certificate,
Right.
HMRC,
Right.
the tax office in the UK, will claim you're a tax resident in the UK. It is governed by the UK Statutory Residency Test 2013.
Right.
So you're right, that will limit how much you can trip back. And that's why when you're moving in a perfect world, you should move lock, stock and barrel with your family. For example, I've had a few inquiries which makes me laugh saying, no, when do you want to move? And the answer is never, yeah? No, I just want to buy a home, I spend a few days, my family stays there, but I live most of my time in the UK. I just want to pay less tax.
Yes.
Well, you know, life
It's
is
not
not
gonna
that
work, no.
life is not that simple, right?
Right.
Otherwise everyone would do it. Do you
Yes.
think the tax authorities in the UK would accept that? Nor would we. So, you know, it has to be done properly. You want to move for the right reasons, we do it. As a firm, if I have someone applying for residency to avoid tax, I will push them back. I will not be prepared to be a party to getting a certificate on those grounds and avoid tax in a third country. It's not the way we want to do business.
Okay.
We do it for legitimate reasons, structure it tax efficiently to limit the amount of tax. Tax mitigation is perfectly permissible, but not to circumvent the rules and to avoid tax. That's not
Right. So
the type of
the answer is
business.
that it's not going to work this
It's
way. So you
not
basically
gonna
need to move the family.
Ideally, you can leave them in the UK, but then you are subject to the UK statutory
Yes,
residency
that's
test.
true.
How many days you can trip back without triggering residency? So you are right. It does complicate the matter quite a bit.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
clearing this. Okay. So now I have the questions from the viewers.
Yes.
And so one of the question is, with the self-sufficiency route, when you have a material connection to Gibraltar, owning the property, how does that affect your medical and tax status? I couldn't quite understand, to be honest, this question, but
When you have
with the self-sufficiency route,
Yeah.
when you have a material connection to Gibraltar, like owning property, how does that affect your medical and tax status? I think that maybe
It's
the
not
question is if you own the property.
The question is not very clear. You might
Yes,
own the
yes.
property, but if you own the property here as a non-resident,
Right.
or you own the property but you don't pay anything in tax, it depends if you're retired or not retired.
Okay.
It's difficult to answer that question, and I'm happy to do so, but probably it's better to ask them to engage with us.
Right.
Because sometimes it's not asking the question,
Yeah.
it's gathering a lot of information to understand the bigger picture.
Right.
Rather than answer a question, but you haven't got the full information. And then the answer that I give is only as good as the question that I've been asked, but without having all the full facts.
Right. Okay. So I think maybe like that. I have some question I have been asked too about if you,
Yeah.
for example, buy property again as a UK citizen. Can you just get residency just because you bought the property?
No.
No. So
No.
you need to still
No.
those rules, residency rules applies for
Qualified
everyone. Even if you
person.
buy.
Qualified person under self-sufficiency, category 2 status or HEPS
Right. Yes. So,
if you're employed. But what you can't do is I buy the property and now I go around the rules and I get the residency.
yeah.
And that's why I say with residency, each case is so different.
Yes.
And you have to gather the data and understand it
Right.
to
Okay.
be able to give the advice.
Yeah, so that's definitely clear because I had quite a few questions about if you can just buy property. I think it's people asking because there was a scheme like this in Spain and Portugal, isn't it? If you buy property for
The golden
type of-
visa is
yes, like a
is,
golden visa or something. But there's nothing like this.
is residency by investment, and
Yes.
very often it's not even that. It's just access to the Schengen area.
Yeah.
Hasn't got to be residency. Sometimes it's non-resident,
Right.
but you've got Schengen access. Or you can do citizenship by investment. There's different programs,
Yeah.
but that's not what we offer.
No, so Gibraltar doesn't have something like this, so you can't.
Not right now.
No, okay. Who knows?
Who knows in a few years?
But yes, for today, 2023, that's what we have. Okay, so the next actually quite awesome question. Again, it's a little bit tricky. I got it from the viewer, but I had some other questions about it. Again, for example, is it possible, so for British people, to move to Gibraltar like before? So like you have no job, like it's not retired. Okay, so this is just a working person, for example, want to just move to Gibraltar. And then like find a job here, like employment through the gaming industry, for example,
Yeah.
right? And then get residency,
Yeah.
and then like bring children into here. So, for example, what I think the question is like, you can move first here, and while you are here, to look for, let's say, for work.
If you're British national,
Yes.
you can move
So you
here.
don't need like a working permit. You don't need any other permits. You can just
No,
move
that
in
I
here,
know of. As a British national, you can move here
Right.
and then look for the job, and then
If you get the job,
you get a job.
you get the residence.
Yes,
So through the
Yes.
employment.
correct.
Okay. But how long do you have to do so? Is it the same rule, like only 90 days, like in
What do you-
180?
What do you mean?
So, for example, if British family come here
Yeah.
and they're looking for but can't find it, like let's say it takes them 3 months, 6 months, can they stay all the time or not?
Well, I mean,
Again, they will be like renting somewhere for now and
Yes.
just looking for job constantly.
I think, look, it depends how long it takes them to get the job, I
Yes.
assume.
So is it
That-
limit time
that-
limit? Like this 180
I-
days,
I-
like for everyone?
Well, after 182
Yes.
days, you're de facto tax resident, whether you have a certificate or not,
Right.
for tax purposes. But again, it depends on the case. But if you are coming here pretending to be looking for a job and not finding a job,
No, but you intend to find a job, but just
look,
it didn't happen.
it's a market where companies are desperate to bring in qualified individuals. So I think, in all probability, someone with the right skill set will find a job.
Right.
In this market, remember, post-Brexit, haven't got the catchment area of British nationals moving into Spain because they need visas now. So in all probability, they will come here and find a job. It's never, you could never say for sure, but in all probability, someone who's highly skilled,
Okay.
you know, with a good work ethic,
Right.
I don't think they will struggle to find a job, so long as they can speak fluent English and they bring something to the table. The employers are looking.
But if they can't find a job, they have to leave.
they can't
Is
stay in
I mean,
there.
okay, if we can't do any other type
Yeah.
of residency, but it's trying to do through employment. If you can't find it, you have to leave.
Yeah.
So you can't just keep
Ideally,
going, looking for a year, 2 years.
ideally, the
You have
logical
to.
thing is you seek the employment first and then you move.
Yeah, that's I would say probably first you need to get
Get the job,
contact the companies, get a job, and then
get the job,
company
fly
will help
in,
you to move.
interview. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
basically, if for example again the family decide to move before with children, they can't really get children into schools or anything else until they get to residency.
I think that would be very complicated because
No.
you know what we've noticed with processing new cases is that they're tightening everywhere,
Right.
even with paperwork. No, this is not right. They give it back, and it comes back, and it comes back, because they're looking at all those things. You know that people find loopholes. It's human nature.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I can't get through here, but maybe let me try here. Let me try. So the questions you're asking are very good because that's how people think. Well, I can't do it this way. I'll do it another way. But things are being tightened up considerably.
Right.
So yeah.
So basically, to be sure, you look for employment before you move to Gibraltar.
I think that's
Yes, and then the company would actually help to relocate, and they help them with the families, like the whole. I know they do the packages, like they help them.
Some do, some don't,
Some-
depending on the
some.
size of the company.
Yeah. Okay, so with gaming companies also, I have seen some.
The gamings will probably all might do.
They
it,
usually offer
Yeah.
the relocation package.
Again, they want to expand,
Yeah.
but without people, companies cannot expand.
No.
So
And obviously, you get medical care from the employment too, so it's not like.
some companies pay for that.
Yes.
Gaming firms too.
So, and some of them actually offer private healthcare, so I don't know.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's kind of pretty much the questions. I think that's it. We answered all the questions. So thank you very much again for your time,
Thank you, Anna.
finding it to answer the questions. And if you have anything anymore to ask, my friends, you can find all the links in the description. And Paul is always and his team will be there to help you guys with everything. Okay. And of course, if there are any more questions, please write some comments and we will see and try to make some more videos based on most asked questions, okay, about residency in Gibraltar and everything else. I would be interested. Okay, guys, so thank you for watching and thank you once again.
Thank you.
And see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.